Hello there, Outliers. Niiamah Ashong here. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of your journey today. We have an amazing conversation in store for you as we slow down to spend time with one amazing and awesome outlier. Her name is Tiara Mbonisi. And I actually want to say that again real quick here because I want to make sure y'all really get to see her. Her name is Tiara Mbonisi. There we go. That's one, Tiara. You're gonna find with me here that like I don't edit anything, and the reason for
Okay.
that is because I'm like I don't want to be edited anymore. You know, I have like realistically, I want to give outliers a chance to get to know you, but there's an element of really stepping into what does it mean to be expressed out in the world. I used to be on cameras and not have lights and like literally fade into the darkness
Mm,
while it was happening. And I would say I want to be seen, and they're like, "You're not even being seen physically here," you know. And so
mm,
like so there's a large part of me that's going to keep that part in because I'm like I
mm,
want to be able to walk in the world like I just want to be able to walk without
mm,
having to worry and to know that in every single circumstance, like we are good, we are covered, and we are real and we are human. So
mm.
I am
Okay.
grateful for you. Thank you for being here. I would love to give outliers a chance to get to know you and the game that you play. So do you mind like letting us know a bit more about you and the way that you're shaking things up in the world?
Sure. Again, I'm Tiara Mbonisi. I am an Oakland, California native. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, though. I'm here in a grad program right now, Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies, um, on a path to becoming a professor. But really, I am a Black girl champion, a Black woman champion. I always have been, for better or for worse. I see myself. I see myself as someone who has always had a voice, and I think that's a privilege to have always felt empowered to speak and to talk my shit. Um, and also, that led me to be able to champion for others. And so I think about those who haven't always had a voice and who haven't always felt comfortable with their voice and in their bodies. Um, yeah, that's me.
Well, I appreciate that. I the word champion actually really like strikes me. And I know you use it really intentionally. Like what does it mean for you when you think about champion?
When I think about champion, and I'm a millennial here, so walk with me on this. There's a scene in that old movie with Russell Crowe, Gladiator, and he has his armor on, and he has his weapons, and he's in I don't know if it's like a Greek amphitheater, some kind of European amphitheater, and he's like whooping ass. But he's a good guy though, and he's up against a system. He's up against, criminals, and it seems like what he's up against is insurmountable. And so when I think about myself as a champion, and I think about when I'm championing against, I'm championing against sexism, against patriarchy, against rape culture, um, and against limiting beliefs on women and women who are in Black bodies. And so when I think about champion, I think about, okay, what am I putting on like for my armor? The way I was raised, the way I was socialized is some of the armor that I wear. Um, I was raised in like community spaces, social justice spaces. Even getting a master's right now is just another piece of my armor. It doesn't make me or break me, but it is a piece of armor that I'm putting on behalf of my community that I'm fighting for.
I appreciate that. And, there's it's interesting as you say this here because I'm hearing both the armor part and also like there's a levity to you as well.
Mm,
Um, that I think I just want to just like say I feel and like there's when I think about armor and like all the different things, I can feel like the heaviness of it. Like that's generally where I would be like, oh man, now
Mm-hmm.
I'm burdened with the armor on top of it. But you're able to do it in a way
Mm,
where I'm like, it might just be really strong bodied. Like it's like, all right, I can just like I have a lot of room, but like I feel like
yeah.
there's agility. I feel like there's it doesn't feel like a yeah, it just has a lightness to it. Do you know what I'm pointing to? I don't know what I'm experiencing, but I know that I'm
Mm.
experiencing something. So I was wondering if you know what I'm pointing to.
Yeah, because I think it's rooted in like I'm taking pride in putting on the armor.
Mm.
And like armor is heavy. Um, you ever like seen people or seen those scenes where they're actually like putting on like layers of armor? Armor is heavy, and there is a heaviness to um what I'm fighting for or who I'm fighting for. But I think because I see it as an honor, I'm able to balance out that heaviness. And also because I had my own champions. I had people who were champions for me. I have people who are still champions for me. And so I feel like it's a holistic process. And there was generations like before us who took on the armor like I'm going to work myself down to the bone and down to the ground for this cause. And we are in a, we're in a self care era. We're in a soft Black girl era where people are like, let me sip tea and let me, put these crystals on my altar and let me do yoga. So the armor is heavy, but we have more tools, more access to tools. Um, being healing, spirituality, self-care that can help, that help keep us light, however we want to engage, help keep us light. And that's what help keeps me light.
Yeah, I like to. I'm excited for this conversation because I get that you're about something, right? And it feels
Mm-hmm.
like you dedicated yourself to this from a young age. You're like, I'm immersed in it and I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
going, you know?
Yeah.
I think about Outliers right now because you're someone who moves with purpose. One of the things I close out each conversation with is be you on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening into it at like the first level, it's about like being intentionally you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like there's like basically a capital P and a lowercase p. Lowercase b being p and lowercase p being
Mm-hmm.
the intentionally you. But the other side of it is like to have purpose, to move with
Mm-hmm.
purpose, and to use who you are toward a larger purpose. And so
Yeah.
I'm really curious for you, like because it feels like you're really practicing this. You're like, I've been doing, I've been in this world for a while. Like, how do you leverage like who you are to like to champion to live into this purpose even further?
How do I leverage who I am?
And if I need to change the question, let me know or be more specific with the
What
question.
do
Let me
you,
know.
yeah, what do you mean by leverage?
Yeah, I like the components of this here is I'll tell you where I'm thinking of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of outliers out there that have a belief like it hasn't maybe turned into a conviction yet, like
Mm-hmm.
they're like I see the world differently than others,
Yeah.
and I'm here to make a change. I'm here to make a stand, and yet at the same time I feel like I need to be like XYZ in order to do it. Someone might be listening
Mm-hmm.
to this right now and be like, well, I didn't grow up in like social justice spaces and all that. Like who am I
Mm-hmm.
to like have a say in all of this here, or to
Mm-hmm.
step into something? And so whether it's specifically related to like social justice or another cause, like the people here are very impact oriented. I get
Mm-hmm.
curious about like how you bring you toward like to the table to make this come to life.
Um, I think like one question that popped up in my head while you were talking when you said like who am I to champion this cause,
Mm.
whatever cause it might be. It doesn't have to be, social justice, doesn't have to be women's rights, like it is for me. But who are you not to? And I feel like you don't need a special pedigree, um, a specific upbringing, um, to champion. an idea, to champion a group of people, or to even become a champion or advocate like for yourself. You don't really need those things. I think sometimes we think that we do, um, but we don't. And in terms of purpose, I think sometimes we need to like strip down the noise from society and be still, because it's like there's the things that you have skills in because you were trained in or whatever, right? And then there's those things that you are naturally good at, have always been naturally good at, and whether they are celebrated in your community or not, I would say that's a good like guiding light or a good starting point to guide you to what your purpose may be. Because even when society doesn't celebrate your purpose, it can ground you. Um, when I was a child and a young person, I got in trouble a lot for talking, for running my mouth,
Mhm.
for saying things in a way that was not polished. And now I get paid to do that. If I didn't have champions in my corner, if my self-esteem wasn't built, they could have, they could have stomped that out of me and I would be doing something different than what I'm doing now. And so I think that people need to get, because sometimes your purpose is not your paycheck. It's not how you get paid. And a lot of times, like you said, like before we started, in terms of like the entrepreneurs who listen to this and who are bored and they like, I make money, I pay my bills, I go on vacation. Um, but I'm bored. You're bored because you're not doing your purpose. You're making money. You're making a lifestyle. You're securing yourself. And there is nothing wrong with that. Soon as I figure out how to do that too consistently, boom, we in here. um, but yeah, you gotta be still and think about what your purpose is. And for a small portion of the population, we get paid from our purpose. For the rest of the world, we do not. So you have to find it and then create a balance with what you make money on, because we live in a capitalist society. We gotta eat, we gotta live, we gotta sleep. But you have to take time to find it.
Tell me a bit here, like there is this like you talked about like a small part of being able to get be able to align their purpose and their paycheck, right? I would love to like spend some time like sh- focusing on that small part, right? Um, Mainly because I'm like it's a little bit more outliery, and at the same time I'm also like this is the people who are here, and whether it's full time or you find ways to get paid for that, I was just like struck. I was like, yes, this is like I'm so glad I'm in conversation with you when you're like I used to be XYZ. People used to like say all these things and try and bring me down around it, but I was champion and now I get paid to do that. And allies, I want to bring that in. I want to bring that in because you see it happening subtly in these conversations, but like I feel like we get a chance to like really shine a light on it here, where it's like this thing that you did that for a while might have been um considered like a negative or something that people try to squash down, you've continued to hone in that skill and position yourself in a way that like you're actually sought out and paid for it. Can you speak to that? Because there are outliers out there that are actively working to like squash this thing inside of them because of the external factors. Where it's like, no, this is actually part of. I don't know what will make that small group a lot larger.
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like it's important to note that, like, over time, I've had to polish my voice. I've had to, in the Black American community, we call it code switching.
Mhm.
And I'm not a good code switcher. I kind of like show up the same everywhere. However, I've learned how to be strategic on how I use my gifts and how I use my voice, depending upon the rooms that I'm like walking into.
Mhm.
And that took me a long time to learn because I didn't want to learn it, honestly. I was like, I shouldn't have to. I feel like being genuine is so undervalued in our society. And I was really worried about not being genuine. But when you live in the society that we live in and you do need a paycheck, you and you're not going to be an entrepreneur, right? Because I'm much more of a person who's like worked for other people and I've had contracts, but not like a full-time entrepreneur. Um, you have to think about your audience and how they're like reading you and how they're receiving you. Even as an entrepreneur, when they say like you're building your brand, you still have to think about how your clients or your target audience is receiving you. And how do you do that from a genuine space? And so that was always kind of like my fight. So I have had to go under refinement and under some polishing to walk in certain spaces, especially like academia. Um, but because I had core individuals were important to me, telling me that they valued my voice, they valued my work. I'm also a writer and a poet. I kept going. Soon as you have like the wrong people around you that do not value those parts of you, then you can't even refine it, and you can't even look at it through a lens that aspect of it is real and genuine and has some value to it. And so I had people in my life that allowed me to believe that my voice and that my penmanship had value to it, even when it was rough around the edges. So that was very like important to like my growth. Um, but I laugh now because I'm like, I'm teaching undergrad. And when I'm like in class, I'm like, this is my universe and I can say what I want to say. And it feels great. What feels even better is having students um, who are who I'm supporting in becoming critical thinkers. I'm seeing like the light bulbs pop up around their heads and their eyes shine when we're talking about these real world issues. And that's like all the confirmation I need that the little kid me, the teenage me, the 20 something year old me who was getting a slap on the wrist because my approach wasn't polished yet, that I was always on the correct journey. I just, like that's what a journey is about. A journey is about getting better with time. And you can't, and now that I look back on all those iterations of myself, they all were necessary to be like who I'm becoming now. And I'm still on the journey.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. There's components as I'm listening that um so I'm curious about the polish, right? And the reason I hear so just so you know, I just became black 5 years ago, maybe six now, right? But like, I see you laughing there. Yeah, I was like, I grew up. My parents are from Ghana, West Africa. Like, I grew up in South Jersey, right outside of Camden, like Camden, Philly, like right in that area. And it was like the way that I was raised, it was like, well, you are African, African American, or like they were like, you're African. And like, and there was a distinction for me between like being black and being African or African American. It wasn't until I moved to Singapore, I lived there for 4 years and was able to like remove myself or have an experience outside of like the American experience of being black, that I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm starting to get me, and I'm starting to embrace there. Uh, and so I bring in this in because one of the things that I've been playing with over time is how to remain myself while being in different like environments where, let's say, more polish was actually necessary, right? Or not, maybe not necessary, but was rewarded, but was made things easier, made things smoother, right? I've been like, it's been my journey to be in a lot of these different places, and I'm still, even in like the coaching space, even in like the podcasting space, I'm still finding myself as one of the few people in what I'm doing, right? And the few, there's still a lot, but it's still relatively less. So I'm curious I don't know. I just want to open up a conversation really quickly around around the polishing. And what I was really getting was like the polishing, be staying genuine and staying true to yourself through it. I think I'm finding my mix, but I think it'd be really, I just really appreciate having a conversation around it, to be honest.
Yeah,
Ooh, that was a big one. That was a big,
that
big,
was a big one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about a lot of things. Because everybody's polish, like you have to be really mindful and careful of who you allow to polish you.
Mm,
And I think that coaching, mentorship is all a part of polishing. And I've had different types of mentors. They didn't all call themselves mentors, but I've
yeah.
had different types of mentors over the course of my life that supported me and helped with my polishing. But it's necessary that those people, those entities, those experiences are the right polish for you. Because it could be me and Suzanne and Ajua, had to throw in a Ghanaian name for you.
I was like, yeah, I was like, whoa. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Indeed, I'm with you.
And our pathways, our journeys are different, our upbringings, our culture is different. We could all be Black women. Black is big, right? In terms of like Blackness not being a monolith, and that's what you experience growing up. Blackness is not a monolith. And when people experience different types of Blackness, they get confused. Like, you're not doing Black how we do Black over here, you know? Um, but we could all, be the same quote unquote demographic, age, race, but we need a different polish to get to where we're trying to go in terms of what our purpose is. And so um I've just been privileged, blessed to have the right people around me. It hasn't always been like a smooth journey. Um but I've just had the right polish, and some of it is like what I accept, what I my personal criteria for polish. So, academia, for instance, to me, academia is a language. I speak Black American girl. I speak that language fluently. I'm from Oakland. Um, but I also grew up in like I said, social justice spaces, but very like artsy fartsy cultural spaces. I speak that language too. Um, but academia is another language. And while I'm willing to like learn the language, I am not, I will not allow academia to make all the valuable lessons I learned about being a Black girl in the ghetto like inferior. Like, I learned valuable lessons that I'm taking into the work with me. So although it's a language I'm learning, I can't really allow it to polish me. Like, it's going to make me scholarly, but it's not it's not the lens in which I judge myself by. It's not the polish in which I judge myself by. In terms of polish, I judge myself by folks who are really authentic, um, who fight for causes, no matter if it's advantageous or not. That's like when I talk about polish, it's kind of like the rubric that I judge myself by, like my value system really. I think polish is also rooted in like a value system. Like, what is your value system? And your value system should walk with you wherever you go, whatever room you walk into. And as you grow, you might add new values to your value system that helps polish you into the person that you should be becoming. So I hope that makes sense.
You know what? It like first, does it make sense to you? It made sense to me, but does it make sense to you?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. Then we're good. We good.
Okay.
Like, and it's funny because I say that very intentionally because I spent a lot of my time talking about the polish. So you're talking about the polish and the language, right? Um, and I'll say this part first. Like, I spent a lot of my time thinking that I was misunderstood and thinking that like, and Yeah, I see you there being in that. Yeah. Um, in fact, like my persona, I joined a mastermind, and that persona was misunderstood chameleon. I was like, yeah, that is actually me. Like, I can jump into any room and like change, see what is the language, what is happening in this space. How do you be successful? How do you not get kicked out? And then assimilate or play along with it. Right? So much so that I lost me in it. Right? And there's been a journey of rediscovering and then doing it out in the world, right? So that's part of why I'm bringing in these things in our conversation. One of the things that struck me as you were talking was polishing the language. You had a distinction between polishing the language and polishing yourself. And I thought that that was really like a helpful tool, helpful way of looking at it, where it's like you're you, and there's people that you allow to help you become who you want to become, who you're meant to become, and to play at the level that you want to play. And then there's also tools that make it easier for you to do that along the way. This is my understanding based on what you're saying. And one of the tools is your language. And one of the things that makes that tool even sharper is what has like how polished that language is for the environment that you're in. Right. It's like, but you are still you. It's just the language in there, just like how you want to bring it. It's like, am I using slang like this gross over exaggeration? But like, am I using slang or am I like talking to my grandparents? Like same, but very different. Right. Firstly, let me just capture this. Like, am I getting that right? Like that's one of the things that I took away from what you said. Does that feel like it's in alignment with what with where you were going with it?
Yeah, that's definitely in alignment. There's a code switching, a language switching. Like technically only speak English, but in terms of like Blackness, it's so vast. In terms of being a thought leader and intellectual, it's so vast that I'm learning different languages in those arenas. But at the core, I am me and
Mhm.
I am authentic and I don't and like I said, like in terms of the story you were telling about yourself, you have to be careful with it because you can lose yourself if you allow the wrong environments to polish you too much or you ship yourself too far from your origin. And so yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Let's play with this. The other thing that was coming to me as you were talking was uh, the concept for me, which is I talk a lot about up leveling. Right? So
Hmm.
typically, if you're going to be in my world, we're either elevating or we're deepening. I can definitely help you move forward, but
Yeah.
like it's one of like the lower things that like it's like you'll get return on it, but like you could level yourself up in this space as well.
Hmm.
All right.
Hmm.
And like as we're talking, as you're just talking about polish and talking about like I hear that you were leveling yourself up for like the game that you actually wanted to play.
Yeah.
'Cause what I get from you is like, look, I've been doing this. I've been saying what I've been saying for years, for decades. And as time has gone on, I've been learning how, like, the saw has been sharpened. I've been learning how to actually get what I want to get across in a way that is
Yeah.
actually effective for what I want to get done, you know? But like it feels like in the many different ways, like I'm only ever leveling up the same skill set. I'm the same person. It's the same skill. It's just has
Mm.
gotten better and better and better, or like I've gotten more nuance with it over time. Just want to like speak to that really quickly because oftentimes I'll say like, "Hey, we're here to level up," and there's a universe of what that could mean. Not just like, "Oh, I have
Mm.
to go take on the biggest things," which I hope we do, but
Yeah.
also just like, how do we take that part of us that is and mature it to so that we don't have to go get new skills, but
Mm.
instead build upon what we've been working on for decades anyway, and just
Yeah.
bring that up to the level of the challenge or what we want to champion in the world. What are your thoughts on that, Tiara?
Yeah. I personally am up leveling. Um, that's why I'm back in school to begin with. Um, I spent years in like various aspects of education, like K through 12 education, but non-traditionally. I spent like 15 years with the Children's Defense Fund. They have an organization called Freedom Schools. I've done every kind of position in Freedom Schools, teaching in class to site coordinators, site directors. executive director, all those things. And that's a literacy program for Black children. And so I'm a wordy, I'm a lexiphile, I'm a bibliophile, so words mean so much to me because they shape discourse. And so to go into academia is one of the most powerful ways to shape discourse. Um, Even for people who don't engage with academia, we may not know that.
Do me one thing here, Tiara, because I want to lose it
Mhm,
here. When you say they shape discourse, like what does discourse mean to you? Like that part right there, I'm making
mhm,
up my own definition around it, and I'm
mhm.
like, well, for
Yeah,
someone who's a wordy, that means something. So I want to
yeah,
make sure I'm like
yeah.
following you exactly.
So I'm gonna try to do a good job. So
Do a bad
discourse,
job. Do your best bad job. You know, I just want to be able to be in to be able to stay with you, and it was just some element of it where I'm like, yeah, I'm really curious about what that means for you.
yeah. So discourse is are like the permeating ideas about a thing, right? It's what people are discussing. It's also what people believe about the thing. And so, like right now, the election is coming up. So CNN, Fox, whoever you watch, they're shaping the discourse about Trump. They're shaping the discourse about Kamala. They're shaping the big ideas and the permeating ideas that change people's minds or lead people to make decisions. So discourse is not just like, oh, we talking about an idea. Discourse actually changes how people think and leads people to do. And so words have the power to do that. If we take it some decades back and I'm shaping discourse about Black Americans and I say that they're angry, they're shiftless, they're lazy, right? That discourse shaped policies, shaped laws, and shaped behaviors towards Black Americans during that period of time. So discourse is hella powerful. When Obama got into the office, there was a certain discourse that came out of him being in office about Black families. We saw him, and he didn't say it as much as he shaped discourse by being and doing. We saw him bump fists with Michelle and kiss Michelle on the cheek. We saw their beautiful Black family portraits. So it's like, come again, tell me that Black families don't exist and that they're not loving. Obama spent 8 years shaping that discourse, helping to shape that discourse for us. So I want to be a discourse shaper, and academia is just one way to do it, especially when we talk about women's rights, queer folks' rights, all those things. So that's what I mean by discourse.
I'm so glad I asked because my understanding of it was at like level one. I was like, I think she means discussions, you know, and I have a background like in culture too, right?
Mhm.
I'm hearing what you're saying. So a couple things came up to me, and we have to start wrapping up this conversation. I'm really enjoying it. Um,
Okay.
One of the things that I very much appreciate about you is that you use the word thought leader, and we talked a little bit about thought leader versus influence. I don't know if we did it before or after the recording came on, but
Yeah.
thought leader versus influencer, and you've used that in the conversation. Alex, I want to put out that like purport like there's a big distinction like
Mhm.
between being a thought leader. And
Mhm.
when right when as you were talking about discourse, I was like, oh, I think I get something here, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like you landed here at the end, but you're like, I want to be a discourse shaper. I was like, oh, that's her thought leadership. Or
Yeah.
that's why like it's one thing to be a part of the conversation that's already happening, and it's another thing to shape the conversation. And
Mhm.
like, and what I was getting from it too was just like when you talk about like Obama and the family, I think culture with it because
Mhm.
my definition on my team, people are like, well, how do we change the culture? We're like, oh, it's all the things. Like it's not,
Mhm.
it's like it's literally everything. And
Yeah.
so when you speak to the unspoken things as well and how that shapes discourse, one, I can feel like an invigorated power inside me where I'm like, oh, that's fun. So like I'm glad that you're a discourse shaper. Thank you. And thank you for continuing to like up level like develop more polish to do this at larger and larger scales with more and more impact with it. Because I feel you in that. I there's something electric that's going on in me as I hear you talk. I'm like, oh, okay, that like it lines up. Um, and there was this thing where I was like, oh, like at, at some point I was like, oh, words are your vehicle of change. And if we can, and it might be more discourse now that I see that it goes beyond just words. Like I know that word, like there's a core, around it. Um, but I see it, and I appreciate you for it. There's some things in my life that make more sense now. There's some things that I'm pursuing that where I'm like, why can't I just leave this alone?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I just like leave the world of outliers behind, right? Sometimes I think about
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm like, because there's more to it. And when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about thought leadership, we didn't have a podcast panel right now, but one of the reasons I love doing that is because I'm like, I want to change things up. And I can talk about how things could be changed. But or I can bring five random strangers together in
Mm-hmm.
like with and in that experience show what is possible when like as we continue to lean into all the different things that we are, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So I just appreciate you. There's a lot that falls into place as we come in. We're going to wrap up, but I want to give you just want to open up the floor one more time for anything else you want to put into our pool of shared conversation, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, at the beginning we did talk about influencing versus thought leadership. Because traditionally, when we think about influencing, right, the average influencer is influencing you to buy a product. And there's nothing wrong with that. I have my favorite influencers who I look to because I know they are vetting these products that I'm looking at and I can trust the recommendations. A thought leader is leading in ideas, leading in discourse. And it's also vetting ideas. Like it's also doing research and like immersing themselves in those ideas to be able to come and share with you. And so when we think about podcasting is a vehicle of discourse. Whether you want to get on a podcast and just talk some bullshit, or you want to use that vehicle to help people arrive somewhere um, that is helpful for their lives or helpful for their careers. Like I really respect that about, some podcasts. And I believe that this is what this podcast aims to do. So you are a discourse shaper. And I also don't think that we have to choose. At the beginning, you mentioned, being a husband, having two children. Like when you, like how I said, like Obama was shaping discourse by being, you're shaping discourse by being, you know, married to a woman, by raising children. Like I have three children of my own. And so I'm actually in the classroom with 38 undergrads twice a week, but I'm in the home with three children every day. And so I'm shaping discourse, I'm having engaging conversations. I am I'm raising children, and all these things are important. And I don't think we have to be like sometimes we have to compartmentalize to get certain things done, but as full human beings, we don't have to be fragmented and we don't have to feel like, oh, what I do in the world is more important than what I do at home. What I do at home is more important than what I do in the world. If you are driven to do it, it's important. It just is. And so I just wanted to say that you are shaping discourse, whether that's what you think you're doing or not. It's just when you become conscious of it, you realize the power of it. You're weaving these worlds around people in your personal lives, or you're allowing people to shape discourse around your beliefs and your value system. And you have to decide whether you're in alignment and you trust those things to polish you, to set your value system. Are they helping you grow or not? And so that would be the question that I leave the audience with.
Mm.
And also, get quiet so you can determine what your purpose is. And the step two and step three is to figure out how to make some coins off of it. But step one is to just determine what it is and don't feel ashamed about it if the world doesn't just automatically embrace it. Yeah.
Well, Tiara, I thoroughly appreciate you, and there's a lot of things that I'm doing that now make more sense. Like to be honest, but still, I'm like I can feel ease. I can feel like maybe using our words from today, like I can feel like something got polished, and one of it is like the lack of questioning, and just a self belief in it. Outliers. We're listening to this conversation. We've been able to go in deep on polishing, deep on uh, so many different topics that really get to like how you show up for yourself and champion along the way. And my invitation for you is that if there's one person out there in your world that you feel would really benefit from this conversation, please pause this, grab the link, and send it to them. Let them know why you thought of them in particular and what you thought would be really meaningful for them in this episode, and share it with them. We have large platforms. There are places where you might be an influencer. And if you are an influencer, feel free to go share this out with them in that way. But like there's a leadership element that I think you can really do to help shape the discourse of people in your world by just changing, like by just sharing this with one person intentionally. So that's my request of you here. Tiara, we're going to wrap up. We're going to be ending our conversation. The way I end our conversations are with two questions. One, what is it's an insight and how people can follow up with you. All right. So I say continue the journey with you. So the insight, when I ask about an insight, I mean like what did you get from this conversation? Outliers, they're covered. They're gonna get what they got from it here. I'm curious what you got, if anything. And if you got no insights from this conversation, you can just say that. And then the other side of it is if anyone wants to continue down this journey, wants to go down this road with you, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Okay. Yes, a lot of times when I'm like asked to like, what do you do? People, what do you do? And I think on the spot, I'm not always good at answering that question outside of saying like I'm an educator, I'm a creative. But I'm a discourse shaper and you helped me get there. I appreciate that realization because it's so powerful. It's so important. It's so important. And in terms of people following up with me, I'm super active on social media. I am a millennial. You can find me on Facebook at Tiara Mbonisi. You can also find me on Instagram at Tiara Mbonisi. And you can expect a Big Mouth Woman podcast and newsletter from me very soon. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you so much, Outliers. I'm excited to see what we all create from this year, whether it's getting quiet and tapping into purpose or listening and acting upon it. I'm looking forward to how we keep polishing ourselves and finding the right people, finding the people that we want to have in to help really influence and polish us through that way. Because you were clear about like it's the company you keep makes a difference and who you allow to have in like makes a big difference. So I think I'll end with this, Outliers. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this polishing process for you. I don't take it lightly, and I'm excited for everything that comes out from here. Until the next time we talk, do me a favor, be you on purpose. Be well. Journey on.